What's going on? What's going on, guys? Y'all know what it is, man. It's your boy, Commissioner Mason, and we back. Welcome to the Elite Eight Fantasy Football League YouTube channel. All right, where we talk about everything in our league and then things around fantasy sports. I am your host, Commissioner Mason, and you guys already know my counterpart, my brother, three-time champion. All right, reigning champion, greater of all, the blah blah blah, the wonder, seventh wonder of the
Keep it,
world.
keep it,
He
keep
is
it coming.
him.
Keep it
He
coming.
is who he
Keep it,
is.
keep it coming. There you go.
Stephon Branch, aka Branch Huddle, aka Kneel B4 Zod. What's going on, brother? How you doing?
Hey, glad to be here. Still wearing the championship. You know what I'm saying? I'm still the champ.
Yeah, man. Listen, fantasy football is about to get started. I see now that it's been murmurs going around. It's a lot of people talking about fantasy sports here coming up. I think fantasy football is probably one of the most anticipated. Uh, it's probably one of the most anticipated as far as sports, fantasy, even betting, but props or whatever you want to say. Probably most anticipated, I think, sport in the United States. I mean, because nobody plays fantasy soccer, and if you do, that's not who does that, right? So with fantasy football coming up, guys, you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna talk a little fantasy, all right? This is our first year that we doing this. We never really me and my brother talk fantasy all the time, but we never really like give you guys in depth of what's going on. Right now, I haven't opened up my league. Once I open up my league, I'm gonna give you guys a little bit more in depth of our league, our scoring, how that works, so you guys get a more familiar of like maybe why we pick certain players over some. All right. So just so you guys get familiar, once I open the league, I will show you guys our scoring system. I might even show you some of our scores. Some of you guys might be like, man, what kind of league is this? I'm gonna tell you guys, it's a very interesting league. All right. You will if you guys might want to model your league after how we structured ours. Um, there's a lot of moving pieces in it, but it's very beneficial if you draft right, waiver wire correctly, and can make proper trades in your league. So, without further ado, man, let's just get started. Zod, looking ahead to the new fantasy season, what's some of the biggest storylines entering this season as far as fantasy players concerned? I mean, based off, I'm gonna put the question to you like this. So, based off of just the biggest storylines in fantasy season, what players do you think? Because normally you're not talking about like who you like, right? It's more or less of storylines fantasy wise. Who can benefit from their position that they currently are with respected teams, roster movements, coaching changes. Is there anybody that maybe was under the radar last year that may be coming this year? Maybe a running back, maybe a wide receiver moved, maybe a coach came in, maybe help a player. What do you think? Any storylines that you think that will fit this year for this fantasy season?
Definitely, definitely. So I'm gonna go through, and this is in no particular order. Kyler Murray to the Vikings.
Okay.
That is huge, fantasy wise, for both Kyler Murray and for Justin Jefferson. So, because he barely eclipsed 1,000 last year, and that's with the cycle of rotation of quarterbacks he had to deal with. So I see with Kyler Murray being able to sling that rock, I see his production going up higher, and the fact that people are even questioning his productivity and his ability to be the one of the best receivers in the NFL or the best receiver in the NFL is mind blowing to me when you look at statistically what he had to deal with from a quarterback perspective. And they go, well, look at JSN. JSN had Geno, then he had Sam.
Yeah.
We're looking at the simple fact over the past couple of seasons. This past season, he had a third string quarterback throwing him the ball.
Yeah.
So getting Kyler Murray leaps and bounds for him. Let's go with Michael Wilson from Arizona. You get a brand new offensive staff. He produced when he was in the number one guy's position. So you're curious to see how that system is going to work. The new system is going to work with incorporating him as the number two guy with Marvin Harrison still being the number one guy. Also, Jeremiah Love, rookie running back. A lot of times, With that offense and that offensive line, you don't know the production is going to come from Jeremiah Love, where he's going to be using the passing game, the running game. He can be used in both. He's productive in both, but it's just a simple fact of the scheme that they're going to run and who's going to be the starting quarterback. I believe Jacoby Brissett is planning on coming back to camp. Um, will they start him? Maybe, maybe not. You still got what's his name? His name escaped me. Quarterback Carson Beck, who
Hmm.
came in. Is he going to get some starts? Is that going to affect fantasy? Um, DJ Moore getting traded from the Bears to the Bills impacts both teams. DJ Moore becomes the number one guy in Buffalo. Then you have to who's going to be the number one guy in Chicago? Rumors is it's probably going to be Luther Burden. Then you also got Colson Loveland, who's going to get more targets because of the departure of DJ Moore. Um, AJ Brown going to New England. That affects both Devontae Smith's productivity in fantasy because now he becomes the unquestioned number one guy. And then you got Makai Lemon in there. Then you got Hollywood Brown there. So you got to figure out how they're going to divvy up that offense. Then you got, then you got AJ Brown going over to New England, de facto number one guy now. So now you got to see, okay, Vrabel's scheme was predominantly around running the ball. He still has two very productive running backs in Stevenson and Hendrickson. Uh, and then you have uh, AJ Brown joining that offense. And then another one that instantly comes to mind is Kenneth Walker to Kansas City.
Okay.
So now you have that running back with that type of quarterback back there. So you think, is that going to impact? That's going to impact Worthy's production because then you can't just collapse in. You can't just, or I'm sorry, not collapse in. You can't just play off the ball too deep because now you have a very productive running back there who was the Super Bowl MVP. Those are some of the bigger moves and acquisitions that happened over the offseason that I feel like will impact fantasy for this upcoming season.
Anything shock you though? Like, and I mean, trades happen, people
Yeah.
move every year, but is there one of them that you just brought up that kind of was like, damn, really?
Uh, Nothing really shocked me because the AJ Brown thing had been coming for a minute.
Yeah, yeah,
I'd say
agreed.
that's the closest thing to shocking me. And then once Kyler Murray even when in the process of Kyler Murray getting released, he was already being rumored to Minnesota. So that was kind of one of the situations. I guess the biggest shock to me was the Cardinals actually taking Jeremiah Love in the draft.
Okay.
So I think that was the biggest shock of the things that I mentioned. But if we're talking the overall NFL aspect, I'd probably say, yeah, nothing really surprised me because it was all rumored before it happened.
Right, right. Okay. Well, and I mean, I think for the most part, you hit everything on the head. One of the storylines I think just for fantasy that I'm gonna say that was a shocker was the Miles Garrett trade, right? And I think just because, you know, I know a lot of people do not really harp heavy on defenses in fantasy, but
Mm-hmm.
I know you can contest to this as well. Is Man, make sure you got a good defense, right? Make sure you got a good defense. Now, I will tell you this: I stream defenses, right? But I only stream defenses when I know my defense is not top tier. And what I
Mm-hmm.
mean is, there's defenses that float probably after week 2, 3 that become top 10 and they're there all year, right? You could say that about Houston. I don't remember where exactly New England floated, but like Houston, the Denvers, I'm trying to think of not the Vikings. Who am I thinking in NFC?
Seahawks.
Seahawks. Thank you, Seahawks. Them guys that when you have those defenses, you keep those. Miles Garrett being added to the Rams defense, and then possibly the return of Aaron Donald tremendously is a storyline that's just kind of I want to see how that defense pans out. Um, Outside of that, I think you were right. A lot of the I do like DJ Moore. Him getting it wasn't shocking to me that he went to Buffalo. I do
Mm-hmm.
like the fact he went to Buffalo. I've had debates with people where they just think DJ Moore's lost a step, and you could say that you might think he did lose a step. I just think, given the situation that he was in and when he first got sent to Chicago, he was basically under the tutelage of was it Nagy? I don't remember. Was
Yeah,
it
Matt
Nagy?
Nagy.
It was
Yeah.
under Nagy, and then also that offense was going to look a different way. In comes in Ben, and you could tell he wants the offense to run a certain way. And I don't know if DJ Moore fit that offensive style, which is no big problem. He gets the opportunity to show his skills in Buffalo. Hopefully that works out for him. I don't know. I think that he's a good player. I think that he's got a lot of talent, and I think mixing him with a Josh Allen is a good mode for him long term. Fantasy wise, I feel like he's gonna be just fine. Do I think DJ Moore is um top tier? I'm not gonna say top tier, but hell, man, he's a hell of a fucking wide receiver. He could be a wide receiver one on a good team any day. He's
Mhm.
got hands. I don't know if he's really that as fast, but I know he's got hands. He's got the ability. He'll go up and get it. He'll do everything necessary as a football player to make sure that he's what the quarterback needs over time. So you're right, man. None of them was real major. Like I said, I wasn't real. Kyler Murray going to Minnesota. It was kind of like, well, what else they gonna do? I mean, you let go of Sam Darnold. You got J.J. McCarron, who you obviously are giving up on now, and
Ginger.
Arizona obviously just wanted to get rid of him, and then they wanted to start another opportunity with Beck, who Beck could actually become a starter in the NFL. I guess the jury's still out on that. We're gonna find that out later. But yeah, man, that was our discussion where we sit there and we just broke down who we thought would be. Now, so my next thing I want to talk about is something that you can elaborate on and give the people, especially people that have not played fantasy football. And let's just say this, guys. Listen, I'm gonna tell you this right now. If you're somebody that's new to fantasy football, you're somebody that's never played fantasy football, or you're somebody that has been playing and you just don't ever get in the playoffs, you always drafting, your draft ain't never hitting, you don't know where to look, you don't know any of that, right? This is the place for it. All right. I'm gonna give you guys some inside information from one of the guys here who's obviously been my brother's been in dynasty leagues. He's had probably 6 leagues going at once. I don't know why, but he has.
I
Right? He's
like
always
football.
helping people. I'm helping this guy with his league. I'm helping this guy with his league. But listen, bro. One thing I want to take in consideration, and maybe what makes a great fantasy league, right? Now, and you being an owner, I mean, you being a manager, to you, what does make a great fantasy league?
Consistency, um, fairness across the board,
Right.
trash talk, and maximum participation from everyone.
Gotcha. Okay. So, and I think that's what most people are missing sometimes when they say they leagues only last a year or so.
Mhm.
So I really want to make sure that I highlight as far as the some of the natures of it, right? So first and foremost, like league size, right? For you, what's a sweet spot for a good fantasy league team size?
Like, are you talking about just members of the league?
Yes.
8 to 12.
Okay, 8 to 12.
Yeah,
Is that and so that's the range. What are you
yeah.
more prone to? You more prone to 8, or you more prone to 12, or you kind of in the middle like 10?
I was more prior to joining your league. I was in like 10 to 12 man leagues.
Yeah,
When I went to 8, I was like, I like this.
yeah.
I like.
What's the so was that the highest was a 12 man?
Yeah, highest was a
Okay.
12 man.
See, the highest I ever was in was I believe I think it was a 14-man league. That was crazy. That was
Yeah,
wild. That
nobody
was a
left.
lot going on. Yeah, it was it
Yeah.
was a it was a rough time. Uh, it was a rough time. I'm not even gonna lie. Okay, so you know, I feel like you the way. I feel like 8 to 10 is a good sweet spot. 12 at 12 isn't bad. 12 isn't bad. Especially if these are all PPR. And I really thought about later on, like, man, if I ever have to go to another league over 12, I don't know if I would do it.
I wouldn't
It's
do it.
just a lot, and I think having eight, because like I said, this is the Elite Eight, man. We do it because it's the homeboys. We having fun. We talking some shit. And, we just enjoy playing. But I have found that everyone that I've talked to that's in anything over 12 is struggling. Like they're trying to figure
Mhm.
out the waiver wire is always crazy. Our waiver wire is always crazy.
It is.
And you're skimming for people. So I can only imagine anything over that. So
Mhm.
what about this? What about scoring formats? Because we know, like I told you guys, I'm gonna show you guys what our scoring formats is. I Bro, this is his only kind of full PPR I believe he's ever played in
Yep.
our setup. I guess you can call it somewhat of a super flex, but a super flex pretty much is two quarterbacks, I believe. This is just we added an extra flex player so you can go five wide in our league. You also can run with four running backs instead of three. There's few ways you can orchestrate your team to try to get some wins. And on a future episode, when I drop down the roster size and scoring, I'm gonna let you guys know how you can kind of fill out your team in any possible way to get you a win in that week. So, but I will let bro have it. What about scoring format? So how do you feel about it? Like what do you like? What do you don't like? Is there things you do like about certain scoring formats or things you don't
Mhm.
like about certain scoring formats? I'm gonna let you have the floor.
I'm not a big fan of half point PPRs, and then I'm kind of on like the 1 point ones, and then I'm also not a huge fan of like the two quarterback thing.
Yeah.
I just I'm just not a fan of
Yeah,
that
it
one.
just
And,
it seems like a lot, man.
they
Seems
do.
like it's hard enough trying to get a quarterback and you trying to so one of them goes down and you ain't got another and now you just trying to figure out how to get
Another
another
one.
quarterback in there is
Yeah.
crazy work, man. I think that those guys who do that two quarterback setup, good for you guys.
Hmm.
But yeah, man, it's trouble. It's real crucial out here to even think about doing that. You know, league rules is something I wanted you to kind of elaborate on because I got a story about it, right? And I want the people to understand this. So, league rules are important to me. Me being the commissioner, I am very privy on league rules. I literally try my best to make sure that I keep the league as honest as I can, right? Things happen, right? And I want to bring up and highlight this because my brother can contest to this. It's very true. So during COVID, we all know if you played fantasy football during COVID, it was a mess. All right, we still got through the season. Thank goodness we found a way to make it. But bro, you remember, sometimes our players would carry over to Tuesday. We got to figure out how to orchestrate your roster
Hmm.
just so you won't be left out in the sun. You might be able to play a guy on one day, then come to find out he tests positive.
Yep.
And then there was the IRs. So let me break this down, you guys. During COVID, we allowed ourselves to have IR spots for COVID. No problem. Okay, we allowed that. It was voted in. No problem. Well, come the next year, COVID's no longer around. Well, unbeknownst to me, I didn't know I could not. Once I started the league and the season was going, I could not change the IR spots. They were already at four. We always ran with two IR spots, right? We always did that. It's a little flexibility, but not overly. So what I ended up doing was I put out a disclaimer. My brother can contest to it. Hey guys, only two spots this year are designated for IR. These are the rules. This is a league rule. Okay, it's a mandated league rule. It doesn't need a vote, right? Because it was already precedented that we did not want to over leverage other teams by hoarding players because you got to have a little give and take in fantasy football, right? You can't
Hmm.
have everything your way. Even though you want to try to, you got to have a little give and take. Sometimes you just got to give up something. It's just what it is. So the league rules is something that I really was. This was brought to me about. how do we handle people that violate those rules? And my brother can contest there were people who literally tried to abuse the IR rule. Very
Mhm.
much so that it got a little chaotic. Like I had people calling my phone talking about, yo, he that dude's active. Why does he get to do it and I ain't get to do it? So I want to tell you guys, having league rules is is very beneficial. But if you're a commissioner of your league, do listen to your managers about it, but also try to stay as fair as you possibly can. Because once you start kind of swinging left and right based off of like, oh yeah, this sounds good. Because as commissioner, you can't be biased on either side, even though you're playing. You just
Mhm.
kind of you're subjecting yourself to the league, right?
Mhm.
And not trying to create it as yours unless it's something that you feel is quote unquote unethical or not fitting enough for all, right? And that's one of the things we try to keep up with. And in this time, that's what was happening. Guys were abiding by the rule, but then there's some that weren't. So we had an issue. We had a fork that met the road. And that's one thing I wanted to bring up to you, bro, is that how do you feel about that? What's your stance on league rules? Like, is there a rule that you've ever been in any league that was just completely dumb? And I know we've had some, but these, and I mean actual rules, right? Because I can
Mhm.
tell you a couple that I'm gonna bring up um, after you go.
So I can't really think of any rules that I truly despised. I'm pretty like, let's say, oh. So it's not the rule that I despise; it's the rule that had to be put in place afterwards. It was like the trade rules. Like a lot of people would like make trades at the end of the season when they already out of playoff contention and give up some of their best players for peanuts. And you like, hold up now, brother. Now, I'm a competitive person. Even if this is a free league, money league, whichever, you're not about to jeopardize the integrity of fantasy football and take a great player and then I lose to you because I don't win the championship and I lose to you. I'd be pissed. So
Yeah,
yeah, that was when we had to implement. We had to do the next year. It was in this other league. Next year we had to essentially everyone had to vote on the trade.
yeah. So
So
and yeah, okay. So that's where I was getting ready to go with it at is that there was a couple incidences, and one was told to me that they were able to make trades during the playoffs,
mm-hmm,
which is I believe is egregious. I don't think that you should be able to do that. And another was dropping players,
yep,
right? And it became a league rule in our league that anybody that was not in the playoffs could not just drop players. We had situations that occurred where a guy tried to drop players, and one of the guys in the playoffs picked them up. And it had to be done because we're talking about ethics of the fantasy football league. It's kind of like you don't if you want guys to come back and play, they don't have them feel cheated. Has there been situations where guys have felt cheated in the game? 1,000%.
oh yeah,
And sometimes you can do something to alleviate that. Sometimes you can't. I'll bring up our first league in our first ever um, fantasy football league, our first season. I didn't know that we had a 2 round setup because when we were only having 8 teams, playoffs were double rounds.
mm-hmm,
So what happened was a guy would win one week and he still had to play the next week against the same team to see if he can advance to the next round. It was total points that won. And at that time, I didn't think it was fair for that manager, but the rules are the rules at that time. Now we did vote on it and we changed it back to where win or go home in the playoffs. There's not a 2 round setup, and no, everybody was fine with that.
mm-hmm.
So those things like that are changing because did it jeopardize a person winning? If the rules were predicated off of 1 round, yeah, he got he got he got screwed out the deal. But it was already at default by the players we had. These are some that we didn't know. But I think you're right on trading player. I think when you do that, you're opening up something to where people don't want to play in your league, right?
Hmm.
It gets to a point where it's like, come on, man, that shouldn't even be allowed. Also trades. Trades were all voted on at one point, and one thing I found out was that there was going to be some type of collusion as far as guys vetoing a trade just to veto it. And so I took it. I literally removed that option because I won't veto a trade unless I know it's just completely egregious. Like you're trading Justin Jefferson for you know Isaiah Pacheco, okay?
Hmm.
Or and then you like, oh no, it's a good trade. It's like no, it's not. And you got a shitty record. You're trying to pad your stats for this guy.
Hmm.
Fuck that. It's not happening. So I took it upon myself to actually take control of that. It did used to be a vote. I got a little slack about removing the vote, but since I've took it over, we have never had a problem with a trade. Although we don't make very many trades in our league anyway. I'll
And you
talk
know what?
about that another time.
I ain't trust
Okay,
nobody.
there's a lot of trust issues going on in Elite Eight Fantasy. All right, but that brought up everything as far as like my commissioner responsibilities and things like that. It's only for the most part of people who don't um abide by the rules, right? You want to make sure you abide by the rules of the league and just man have fun, man. We just trying to have fun. You're trying to enjoy the league. You're trying to win, but you want to do it right. You don't want to cheat the game, right?
Yeah.
I'm very heavy on not cheating the game. I think if you got to cheat all the time or you got to find a loophole or something, then you're not playing it right. Now, if things fall in your lap that are within the guidelines, it's what it is. You know, we talked about it plenty of times. Bro started Taysom Hill as somebody against somebody when Taysom Hill was starting at quarterback, but ESPN had him listed as a tight end.
Yeah.
It's just what it is. Okay, he called me. He called me and said, "Can I do this?" And I said, I don't like it, but yeah, I wish I could have did it." Because my brother already knew Taysom Hill being that tight end, even if he threw
Hmm.
him at the tight end spot, Taysom Hill was gonna give him because we're in a full PPR. He understood, oh, the amount of points I'm just gonna get from this position is gonna be crazy, right? And he's still playing a quarterback, mind you. He did say earlier he didn't like two quarterback systems. Okay, I'm just putting that out there, but he gonna use it if it's within the guidelines. Trust me, guys. So well, that goes with me to understand is saying don't don't be mad because he jumped on or did this a manager jumped on something and
Hmm.
exploited not something that was wrong with the league, but it was actually with ESPN because they did not update him. They couldn't update him. I think they couldn't update him to a quarterback. They had to wait a week based off of I think it was during COVID as well. I
It
want to say I
was.
think it
Yep.
was. And it was just a situation where I got the fancy manager calling me like, man, what's going on? I say, "Well, it's legal. Like, I mean, what am I supposed to say? No, you can't use him because, like I said, during COVID, it was kind of crazy.
Hmm.
So I think, you know, for the most part, as long as your league and you guys talk about certain things, or if you notice some year over year that you think should get fixed, like guys, I don't like ties. I hated ties. I hated them. Every time we played, if we got a tie, it would irritate me to my soul. I've done as much as I can with our point system to make sure that we don't ever see a tie. And I think now we won't see anymore because even though we're a full PPR, we are a point, a tenth of a point per yardage. Now I think it's only on receiving though. I thought we was
Yeah.
only on receiving. I don't know if we on running. We might be on running. I might did it on running, but I thought I only did it on receiving. If we did it on receiving, it was still something where I garnered that. But I'm with you. I'm with you, bro. There's a lot that goes with certain. aspects as far as being uh, ethical with certain fantasy stuff like trades and trade people trading that's not even in playoff contention is horrible. I think that you guys that do that are pieces of shit. I think you shouldn't even be playing fantasy football. And if it's for money, I'm probably gonna want to smack one of y'all straight up. So that's how I felt about that about with making fantasy league. Now, this one here is for you, bro. I'm gonna run off some things for you. You know, you being the reigning champion, right? You know, guys probably gonna want to know exactly. And mind you, guys, like I said, he's three-time champion, never lost. Won his rookie year. He obviously knows something. Okay, so I'm gonna run off some questions for you, and then you kind of fill in what you think. All right, because this is advice for the fantasy managers out there. Listen,
Mhm.
if you're new to fantasy football, or you've never won, or you don't know who to pick, get your notebook out, jot down little notes, see what you can come up with. All right. So, first thing is first, bro. Prepare for draft day.
Mhm.
Walk us through what a reigning champion, how's he prep himself for the draft day.
Okay. Can't believe I'm giving up my secrets, but
It's
you know,
not
I
really
had
a secret, but I mean,
cartel. If you end up watching this, brother, don't take my ideas, man. Don't take my ideas. But for me, right, I watch football year round, any type of way I can, whether it's draft stuff, uh, it's like highlights from the previous season, or and I'm paying attention to the off season, so I'm watching it year round. So for me, preparing is you're creating tiers. So you have your tier one, tier two, tier three, tier four, and tier five. So you just put essentially you want to put 3 or 4 players who you picking right there in that top tier, who you think are at the top. And it also depends on where your draft position is. So if I'm at, let's say in our league, right, I'll fall to number 8. I'm putting 8 people in that tier one. Then I put 8 people in that tier two, 8 people in that tier three. So I have it on the board. So I'm ready. So if somebody gets picked, okay, that person got picked. Here's who I already have done my research on. I look at what scheme they're in. I look at the team around them. I look at, let's say we're talking about wide receivers. I look who's opposite of said wide receiver. If it's a running back, I look at who that quarterback is. I look at their schedule. I look at the defenses they're facing. I am holding, I am literally holding like I'm mocking an entire season inside of my head of like, okay, this running back's gonna be here. He might get garbage time. He gets garbage time. Garbage time matters in fantasy, but it don't matter in the real NFL, but it matters in fantasy. So like my brain is consistently going all the time about like who's gonna get picked here, who's opposite this person. If this person gets hurt, are they gonna be the number one guy? If they're the number one guy, ain't nobody else gonna get the ball but them. So they got to force feed them the ball, like things of that nature. So I'm building my tiers based off of that, and I'm like, okay, cool. Um, I'm paying attention to injury history, recovering from injuries, and just things that. So I'm specifically prepping for that. And 9 times 10, I'm not talking for about a good week before the draft day.
mm-hmm.
Not a good week before the draft day. I'm finalizing everything. My board is ready the day before. I'm reviewing that board. No, it's ready about 2 or 3 days before. I'm reviewing that board about a day or so before to make sure I didn't miss anything. And then boom, draft day. There I am. I'm ready. Sometimes do you get in the later rounds and you lose that person that you was waiting for? Yeah. And you have to also think like, if I skip this person now, are they gonna be back? Because we do a snake. Are they gonna be back around on that snake?
Yeah.
Or should I take them this one position early by looking at my competitor's team to be like, okay, my competitor is lacking this position here and this position here. I see that he needs, let's say he needs a quarterback. Oh, I need a quarterback, but that's not on my mind to get one. But if I see that he needs one, he's going to take the one that I know that I want. I may have to, pull that trigger around earlier. But I'm only pulling that trigger around early. I'm not pulling it 2 or 3 rounds earlier because 32 quarterbacks in the NFL. 10 of them, there's a top 10 somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to understand like what's your importance on building your roster.
Facts.
knowing your roster weaknesses and their strengths.
Yeah. I mean, excellent, man. You put that so eloquently. I mean, but you are right. I think having the understanding of knowing where your mental focus goes in on draft day. Just
Mhm.
for me, I think I'm already kind of because at that point you done a lot of mock drafts. You done kind of see
Mhm.
how the flow goes, and if you like with us, we do have a keeper league, so you have to eliminate certain players, and then you're trying to set up where you think this draft is going to go, right? But then it's also too sometimes you got to like you said you got to know your league mates
Yep.
and know some of their tendencies. I don't think you can know them all, but you pretty much know like you always talk about being a homer for somebody. Don't be a homer, and you might know that
Mhm.
person. Oh, he's a homer. I already know that guy's gone.
Yep.
Because if he comes to him, he's gonna snag him at this round, whatever. And to make sure you pivot, one of the things I will say, guys, that I learned just being able to draft better was never anticipate somebody's falling to you. Like I told you, I got 1,000 stories, right? I tell this story all the time. My brother was there to draft. I was so irritated because it's one of those things where you talk about stuff, and even though some of he it, we and it came to the point. I was sitting at 7, right?
Mhm.
You was at 5 or 6. I believe you was at 5 or 6,
That was 5 or
and
6. Yeah.
Marathon was behind me, and I talk about this all the time. I had a running back. I want to get a top wide receiver, right? And I had been discussing with bro. I said, yo, I'm going with these players. This player this is what I'm looking at. It didn't matter to me because I anticipated the fact that where I was sitting, I was gonna get one of them. What happened was, bro took a wide receiver. He actually took the wide receiver I was going to take. I didn't care. I was like, all right, no biggie, because I know I'm gonna get one of these other wide receivers, and then on the back, I'll get my running back. What I ended up doing was pivoting completely from my strategy and did something completely stupid. What I did was, matter of fact, I almost for certain who I picked. I think I picked Chris Carson, and I matched him up. Um, yeah, I picked Chris Carson and didn't go with the wide receiver because I was assuming the person behind me was going to take a running back. What I should have did was did exactly what my first strategy was take the wide receiver. He took both wide receivers. So I didn't in 3 people, I didn't get one wide receiver. Killed my whole wide receiver one spot. So know where you're supposed to take your guys at. Don't deviate unless there's somebody really worth value. At the time, did I need that running back? I did not. I needed that wide receiver. So if you know you need that top wide receiver, you need to go and try to make sure you can secure that. You're going to
Mhm.
find opportunities with running backs, even though you are going to have to kind of maneuver a little bit, but it's early in the draft, man. And knowing if you've already locked up maybe a RB1, you do want to try to position yourself with a wide receiver one, depending on where you're drafting at. So that was one of the things right there. I know on draft day that I always kind of keep in the back of my head sometimes is always try to stay forward thinking and try to make sure you can get it. Me and my bro talk about it all the time. Listen, when Christian McCaffrey was a rookie, I drafted him. Couldn't get him back till last year. It took him being in the league for 10 seasons
Fuck the
for me to be
league.
like, I got him. I finally got him. You know, he was supposed to come back the next year, but it was just a whole mess, man. But um, yeah, man, that was our segment. We wanted to talk to you guys about draft day and fantasy. One thing I will bring up too is stats.
Mhm.
Now, how are you about stats, right? Are you somebody that really looks at a lot of stats? Because here's the reason why I'm asking this is because we talk about a lot of analytics, right? And analytics in football has become more and more prevalent, right? It's just more and more prevalent now. But stats sometimes can be a gift and a curse. How are you with stats? Do you feel that way, or do you feel like stats are beneficial? Um, or is it kind of like they beneficial when they need to be? Let me just say it like that. Um, but how are you with stats? Are you one of these guys that it's all stats? Is it some eye tests? Is it just a feel? How do you feel about some of these league managers that I've seen that actually just only use stats and that's where they go?
So if you're bringing it into the season, like coming into the season, I don't think that that's a wise idea. If you're coming into the season, as the season progresses, you're kind of projecting. You're trying to stay 10 moves ahead. So you're not really looking at stats at that point. You're doing an eye test or you're doing a knowledge test of every NFL team's roster. 32 teams, you should know everything about each 32 teams, who their backups are. When somebody gets hurt, who's going to take over. You're paying attention to who's getting certain reps. So like statistically, it can work. So I'm not completely against statistics. I'm more of a eye test kind of person, but like you can obviously use both, right? There is a
Hmm.
there's a good balance to using both statistics and an eye test because you obviously statistics are statistics. It's what's happening. However, the eye test will tell you this person got X amount of rushing yards because they had to change the game script and they had to do this. So that's why
Hmm.
they have all those yards for this game. Come the next game, they are now playing a separate team that statistically they're not going to run the ball against. They're going to decide to pass the ball. So, like, but your eye test has told you, shoot, when a team played them last week, they gave up X amount of yards, you know what I'm saying? And they had this defender playing. This defender's not playing this game. So
Yeah.
therefore, that stat doesn't matter. It's the eye test of that player not being there. So it they both work hand in hand.
Hmm.
You can't go all statistics. You have to go eye test
Hmm.
in in some of the cases that you're looking at fantasy players in.
Okay. Well, I mean, and again, that it. I don't mind stats. I do, and it's true because sometimes stats can be, like you brought up garbage time earlier. Those stats
Mhm.
can be inflated by a player because the score was they were getting annihilated, and then they just started throwing the ball more because they needed to. They couldn't run, and you're like, oh man, this running back suck. It's just like they've been playing with a negative game script and
Yep.
not utilizing the running back how they need. So you need to be able to sometimes view the game and see how the flow of it went, to garner a good observation, right? But
Mhm.
I think, yeah, you're right. I think stats work well based off of what you're looking at, right? There's certain things that you're gonna look at that is gonna be beneficial to you,
Mhm.
and it's not fully just like you just trusting analytics. You're just trusting um what they're doing, right? On certain, like it could be a team that's really good in the red zone. Their percentage could be super high. So that doesn't even need to be a full eye test because you understand red zone is probably one of the toughest areas to score at. It's
Mhm.
not the field's not wide open, wide receivers is not gonna be able to get open. Everything's more condensed. They can hone in on certain things. So if I look at the stat and the team is like super successful in the red zone, I'm gonna use that. I won't even need to necessarily see an eye test, but that's not for everything, right? So tread lightly when you go into those type of scenarios, man, because if you just start trying to trust a bunch of stats, it's not gonna bode well for you. All right, so
Bogo.
not gonna bode well for you. Listen, man, like I said, I'm gonna bring you guys up by our league scoring. League scoring is very beneficial when you're in full PPR. I prefer a full PPR. I'm pretty sure now, bros, in a PPR, he already told you guys he's not real privy on half point. He likes full point PPRs. I like full point PPRs. I think standard leagues and half point leagues are okay. Um, I'm not saying nothing good or bad about them. I think whatever floats your boat, what keeps you interested, is what you should play, especially with you and your league mates. So that's not nothing big thing. But waiver wire. Now this one here is a very beneficial topic I wanted me and you to hash out, right?
Mhm.
Because waiver wires, I need you to help people understand. Maybe you can elaborate a little bit more than me. I've talked about this before, and I've talked about how beneficial the waiver wire is and why. I hear a lot of people say there's nobody on the waiver wire. There's nobody on the waiver wire, and I want you to kind of elaborate on how do you feel about the waiver wire. And are there what what benefits do you feel about it, and what takeaways can you give somebody that's trying to understand how they should play the waiver wire? In the sense of, what are some things that you notice that people do wrong when they first try to like play the waiver wire, right?
Okay.
And kind of just give the not an in depth. I don't need to give an in depth, but just kind of understand, like, there's people who play the waiver wire right. There's people who play it wrong. I have a way that I like to do it, but it also is not just predicated off me. So I'm gonna
Mhm.
let you have it.
So, biggest mistakes of the waiver wire: overreacting to week one games, right? You don't want to overreact over and like overvalue a player for having a week one big game. You have to look at that game, which comes from the eye test. You have to look at why they had that big game. You got to plan. You lose ahead if you play in the waiver wire. I enjoy the waiver wire because obviously injuries happen, things happen. If you sometimes you like I said earlier, you don't draft the team that you specifically want because of certain things not falling your way, you know. And so with that, the waiver wire is what kind of helps supplant that because there's some players that fall through the cracks that you don't expect to go off. So you want to look at when you're looking at the waiver wire to utilize it, you want to look at, okay, this player got banged up, they're questionable, they may or may not play. I'm gonna take a look at this player and potentially go for said player. Um, if I'm hearing that player is having if I hear players not practice, like kind of like not to steal your thunder, but like I know you and I talking, you always tell me like, hey man, if you playing Sunday, you don't practice by Friday, you ain't playing for me Sunday. And that has been a staple that I have adapted. If you don't play on Friday, you're not playing for me on Sunday. Because if you can't play Friday, you're probably not gonna be ready for full action.
Yeah,
You'll play, but you're not ready for full action come Sunday. There are your rare occurrences where that does happen, like a Saquon. If it's Saquon, I'm not benching Saquon. If it's Bijan, I'm not benching Bijan. I'm gonna still play him because at any point he's gonna go off for a long run, and it also depends on the injury too.
yeah,
So you just got to be very wise with your waiver wire and be very intentional with everything that you do.
yeah. I like what you said there. I like what you said as far as, like, you got to be very intentional with it. And the reason why I stick with that ideology as far as like how I feel about, if you don't practice, you don't play.
Mm-hmm,
I will die on that hill with you going off on my bench. I will, because there's too many situations where a guy has a limited practice, and even limited. If you got one limited practice in and you got a high ankle sprain, I'm
mm-hmm,
probably not playing you. If you got a hamstring injury, I'm probably not playing you. I think because you made the comment too, where he's the severity of the injury. And being in fantasy football a long time, being or playing fantasy football this long, guys, I started to learn that you start to learn about the injuries and learn about really what's the timetable of them coming back, even if they're questionable, right? They're questionable this week, that week. They might
mm-hmm,
even still play, but you might not pull them. I remember actually having, I think, I can't remember if it was after he rolled after he had a high ankle sprain when I had Saquon. I think Saquon either had a high ankle sprain or it was not too long after the knee injury, after I think it was the no, it was actually the knee injury.
mm-hmm,
I knew that New York was going to slowly bring him in to the offense. They was kind of working him in. So he's probably going to be on the pitch count first couple games. I didn't start him even though he played. But I knew that they were kind of it was just like the next one of I think the third or fourth game. It was a good matchup for him, and I said, yeah, this is the game. This is the game because they already kind of gave him like 10 plus carries, just working him into the offense, and you kind of got to know over time, is this person going to play or not. There are certain players that play through injuries. There are certain ones that do not play through many injuries, right?
mm-hmm.
You can lose a guy to a hamstring that quick, and he can re-aggravate if he tries to come back quick. Now, I will say, somebody that shocked me and they were on your team last year, but he did not perform at a high level, but he performed. Was a Mecca Ibuka. I believe he had a hamstring injury, or it was a I think it was either it was a lower leg injury.
Yeah.
And I was like, he's playing because I think he was only out like a couple weeks. I was like, ain't no
Hmm.
way. And he came back and he was effective. I think because it shocked me. It's like, yo, he's out here. You know, I don't know if he took one of look in the back of the leg, tell him to go. But some certain times of that nature, if you have to play him and there's nobody else for you to play or find on that waiver wire, then do what you got to do. But a lot of times if you're kind of following your team, seeing what's going on, because you should not only be looking at your fantasy players, but also looking at the players that's on the team that your fantasy player plays on, because you
Hmm.
never know, you got to pivot. All right, try to always be one step ahead. One of the things that I usually get slack about, or not even slack, but people question me is like, how did you know? Right, and sometimes it's not necessarily about what I know. It's just the opportunity presented itself, and I was able to capitalize on it. One of the
Hmm.
things I will talk up to was Deontay Foreman being signed by the Carolina Panthers,
Hmm.
but then being a backup behind Chuba Hubbard and Christian McCaffrey. And then I'm sitting there watching TV one day, Monday Night Football, and Christian McCaffrey gets traded mid talk of the game. And if I not been watching that, I would not have been able to jump onto the waiver wire and draft and
Hmm.
pick up Deontay Foreman. You have to be active. This is why bro was saying sometimes you got to look at the league with your eyes, because you don't know what you're gonna miss. Because I pretty much right after that, I got my phone calls got flooded, and everybody like, how'd you know to pick him up? I didn't. I just seen it. But there were instances, and I will say I'm gonna bring this up as well. I can't now remember his first name, but his I think it might have been, I can't remember which Williams it was that played for the Chiefs. I don't know if it was Damian Williams or the other Williams. I want to
It was
say
Jamie
Daryl.
Williams.
I want to say Daryl Williams.
Well, both of them. I think both of them played for them at some point.
They did, but I think at one point it was or was it Spencer Ware? It might have been Spencer Ware. I can't remember what running back it was. Anyway, they were playing second fiddle to Clyde Edwards-Helaire. At the time, Clyde Edwards-Helaire was a starting running back.
Hmm.
But I was noticing that the backup running back was getting carries. I said,
Hmm.
okay, I'm keeping an eye on it. I don't know why, but I ended up picking up a running back. I picked him up just to hold him, just see like, hey man, if in a tight bunch, I might have to. He'll give me a few carries. Let me say, Clyde Edwards-Helaire gets hurt. So now the running back that was really not getting any carries is now RB1. So now I've added a great addition to my team, right? And that's why bro was saying you got to be intentional with the way you play the waiver wire. Your intent sometimes has to be for certain situations. Um, he might contest to this too. If you got the ability to in a waiver wire going into a fantasy playoff, sometimes you got to learn how to play keep away, right?
Hmm.
You gotta learn, definitely learn. You gotta be very strategic, learn how to play keep away. Because he told you guys, hey, I see this guy, he might need this. Let me go and grab this guy over here. That way, he's got to pick somewhere else.
Hmm.
You definitely have to do that. You definitely have to make sure you are intentional about who you're picking up, why you're picking them up. Can you hold that person? Are they gonna be somebody beneficial to be on your team, or are you playing keep away, right? We're gonna end this out with this. And this next one, be patient with your roster. Man, oh man, let me tell you something, fantasy managers, about being patient with your roster. Let me tell you something about this. My brother, guys, I this year I hope we can do a live of him during fantasy football. I would love, please, man, give me 10. Listen, if I could get 10 likes on this, just 10, he got to do at least one live session of fantasy. He got to. Listen, guys, it's probably the most funny, emotional roller coaster you will ever hear one person on. It's actually fun because he's all over the place. But be patient with your roster, bro. Tell me what that means to you first and foremost before I elaborate into it.
Be patient with your roster. They're gonna dropping people with a quickness, man, because they didn't
That's a
produce
fact.
that
There
week.
you go.
Because let me tell you, I have seen many of people, especially in our league, drop somebody, and I'm looking and I'm like, he dropped him, and I pick that person up. I'm putting
Listen,
that claim
it's
in
just you scoot. They
ASAP.
don't hit the ground.
They don't
They
hit
don't
the
hit you.
ground.
They
I'm
drop them
putting
like
that
nope.
claim.
He ain't gonna sit there that long. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Scoop him up.
I'm scooping
Scoop
that
him
player up,
up.
and next you know that player starts producing. Next we get a call or a text. Man, bro, you stole my player,
Yeah, you
cuz.
stole my player.
Wow, I hate that you want to go off for you instead of going off for me. Like, no, bro, you just wasn't patient with the player.
Yeah.
You saw the flash in the pan and you thought, man, let me hurry up and grab this. And then that flash in the pan dissipated with a quickness. And this other player, if you would have just waited, they'd have been a star player for you or a decent player for you at that.
Yeah.
So, and then some people, they're overly too patient because they don't want you. And once that happened, we had players in our league who was like, I'm going to hold on to this player because I don't want none of y'all to have opportunity. And that
Right.
player never went off. And they held that roster spot because they didn't want to let that player go to be vindictive. Don't
Right.
make it personal.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, that's
Don't make it personal, man.
no, that's a fact. I mean, being patient with your roster means a lot, y'all. It means a lot. Um, like I told you guys, man. If I got so many stories with this guy that it mind blows me. And I want to bring this up, even though it's so old, and I know he's probably gonna start grinning. He doesn't know where I'm
I
going
know
with
what you're
this, though.
about to
No, you
say.
don't. You have no clue where I'm going with this. You have no clue where I'm going with this. But you might, you might. I don't know. Do you know what I'm about to say?
I
Let
haven't
me
seen
ask you
him.
something. Just if you know what I'm about to say, at least give the name of the player that I'm talking about.
Talking about Jordan. I know we ain't talking about Jordan Howard.
Nope, nope,
Oh no,
show
Julio
not.
Jones.
Yeah,
Julio Jones. Yeah.
that's
My
what it
bad.
is. That's what it is. Yo, I know you guys heard it. He said Julio Jones. Let me tell you something about being patient with your roster, because this is why my brother is a champion, right? Very upset that Julio and D Hop were just not with a lot with Julio. It was mainly a lot Julio.
It was Julio.
And he was like, bro, I think I'm gonna have to sit Julio for the Super Bowl. And I was like, I don't know who the fuck you are right now. Who sits Julio? He had a very good argument on why he wanted to sit Julio, but he didn't have the right argument on why who he should replace Julio with. And I think for him, it was him just assessing it and saying, I gotta roll with Julio. Yeah, he's been underperforming, but I gotta roll with him. It worked out. He kept Julio in because he was patient with the roster. Julio Julio got him to the Super Bowl, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times you don't want to try to I bring it up. Tinkering a lot can always cost you, especially when you're
Mm-hmm.
trying to tinker with your premier players. Yes, sometimes you got to sit them down, right? Especially if they, in a situation where they're not getting touchdowns, they're not getting a lot of opportunities. It's a little lackluster here and there. Their floor is not super bad, but it's bad. There's other guys that's outperforming. You just might have to pivot. Um, but being patient with your roster is a lot. Me and him can tell you 1,000 stories. My brother has literally got players mid game. Okay, there was guys that was upset, wanted to drop a player, made a trade with this fool mid game,
Mm-hmm.
picked him up, and then the guy blames him for
Blame them.
taking advantage of him. No, you
And
took
they'll never
advantage
make
of
another
yourself.
trade with me again.
We talked about it. I think I spoke to I think I talked to Uncle Nick the Weasel about Jamar Chase. We talked about a lot. He literally dropped Jamar Chase because Jamar Chase came out and said he was having trouble catching the ball because it
Mm-hmm.
was the white lines on it that wasn't there. So he drops him and drops a diamond just in the trash, and somebody else picks it up. So
Yep.
always be patient with your roster, man. Yeah, sometimes we make the wrong picks. Sometimes those picks don't pan out. Sometimes the waiver wire is not as pleasant. Certain things are gonna happen, right? But when you pick the guys you pick, especially the ones that are perennial stars, you kind of gotta ride with that, right? Because They could be starting off slow. It could be just a rough couple of weeks or something. The only time I think you should ever make a full pivot from a starter is of course, one injury, or if the production is so egregious that they aren't worth starting over somebody that you know is a bona fide walking whatever 30 ball or something like that. They're gonna keep giving you those points. Doesn't matter who they're playing. They're gonna give you points.
Mm-hmm.
So always making sure about your roster, man, being patient and just trying to just overall build your roster out the way that you need to so you can maximize yourself down the line. When you get in the playoffs, I'm sorry to tell you, it's a 50-50 shot, right?
50
A
shot.
lot of
Yep.
things happen, a lot of things can happen. I've been bearing of it year over years that you get in the playoffs, you think you got the best team, and you do, but then somebody outperforms their projections and then does such a great job that it just limits the production you got from the team you orchestrated. I believe bro talked about it on the last show where we talked about Trayvon Henderson.
Mm-hmm.
He literally thought he had the game won, you know, and he should have won. But there was something else brewing that day, man, and it happens, right? Like, all in all, he stuck with his roster. He could have been like, "Oh man, this sucks," but he assessed the situation, and you're kind of looking at it like, "Hey man, the dude that beat me the way he had to beat me is not something that's common week over week, right? The guy just had a monster game." And
Monster.
my brother does not like those games. Like, I don't like them either. He's been on he's been on the side of that too many times, and I think, but I have as well. You know, one of the stories I always talk about is just me and him. Is I think I was playing you one game, and I was streaming a quarterback, so I streamed Jameis Winston. I said Jameis Winston gonna put up points. I knew it. My brother had Russell Wilson. I'm like, yeah, he ain't gonna put up something. I think Jameis Winston put up like 40 something, maybe close to 50. But Russell decided to just become
Me too. He
the
put
most
72.
elegant quarterback ever and just annihilate. Right? Threw up 70 points on my head. But I had to pivot because the only thing I could deal with was just the fact it was like there was nothing else I could do. Your quarterback put up 70 points. I'm sorry, a lot of times you're not going to win those games
Mm-hmm.
when they put up those type of points. So you just kind of got to take it for what it's worth. I really thought about that when that happened, man. But then again, it was just one of the things we seen it again. I believe you had an incident with Josh Allen. Josh Allen did the same thing, where he just
Mm-hmm.
went nuclear one game.
Ah, don't remind me of that, boy.
I mean, listen, I was there live with it. That was the craziest thing I had
That
ever seen
cost me
because
a Super Bowl.
it was
That cost
literally
me
it
a
was
Super
literally
Bowl.
all in the fourth quarter or second half, I'm pretty sure. But this is what I'm saying is like he could have went and said, "Oh man, this guy sucks," but he's paying attention to his roster and saying, "My
Mm-hmm.
roster's good. That guy had a better out performance than I did." So take that with a grain of salt. Do not overthink it. Just play within yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I could leave you guys with the understanding of your the goal should always one, however it is for you to get into the playoffs, get to that step first, right? So if it's to
Mm-hmm.
win your division, win the division. If it's to get in the top four, do whatever you can to get into that top four to position yourself. From then point, it's a whole new season, right? Take the time to be patient with your roster. Understand if you are serious about trying to win your fantasy football league, take the time out to study later on in the season about where you need to be positioned at. I know my brother can contest to this. One thing that in which normally I don't know if he has done it. I know you've done it, but know everything about when you get locked into that playoff spot. At that point, yeah, you could probably say, yeah, you could give up and like, yeah, I'm already in the playoffs. But once you're locked in that playoff spot, your mind should no longer be on the regular season. Your mind should definitely be on what do I need in the playoffs just to make sure I'm good.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to go in a situation trying to scramble that week because you didn't think about picking this guy up with a waiver wire doing this. My brother would do some stuff. Man, me and him play Jedi mind tricks with each other all the time. A lot of people, I have a little I got my own little thing I do. It's kind of superstitious to me now, where I mess with my lineup. I do mess with my lineup, right? But I don't tinker with it. I just kind of move people in and out. Sometimes I'll play the curve, but you got to know certain people just they gonna be on you. I think I
Yep.
think the I think the year I had thrown in I think you had like Gino or something, or I had Gino and I had Justin Fields, and you was like, he put Gino in. I'm going here. I'm waiting to the last minute, guys. I'm waiting to the last minute to swap out
Mm-hmm.
just to keep him where he's at. But I ain't knowing he already one step ahead of me. He already
Right.
got somebody locked in. Like, hold on.
Mhm. And I know who
Da-da-da,
needs to play.
da-da-da. He look at his phone like, oh really? Click click. And then I go look. I'm like, how did you know? He's like, hey man, don't think I ain't watching you. So you gotta make sure you be patient with the roster
Hmm.
because that patience is always gonna pay off in the long run if you're not just trying to be overly aggressive. Now, if you start hitting certain strides, man, you get in a losing streak. I'm sorry. If you start going like down, and it does depend on how you lose the games, right?
Hmm.
But let's just say you down 0-3. Yeah, if you're losing, you're not able to make enough points. You're gonna have to pivot. Sometimes, like I said, things happen. Somebody has nuclear games. There's nothing you can do. In our league, one of the things that I know that will misjudge your thought process is when you lose to the person that has the high score of the week.
Oh man.
That's one of the things I want to make sure. Do not pivot just because you lost to people that have the high score of the week.
Hmm.
If you do, then that's something that's going to be, you're going to have to check that out again. Okay. Over time, you're going to have to make sure that you look at that because if you don't, you'll start thinking your team sucks and then they don't suck. Right? You're just losing the guys that's putting up more points than you, and then that person would have beat anybody that week. So pay attention to that. Just try to make sure that your patience is locked in to the point that where you don't start just making just outrageous moves. All right. So,
Hmm.
bro, you got anything else with that, man? I know I went rambled on a little bit
Nah,
longer,
you
but
good, bro. You covered everything on that one.
okay.
You covered
So
everything.
as that was one of the things I wanted to bring up to you guys, man, about when you playing fantasy football, having that ability, man. Just enjoy it, have fun with it, but also too, if you're trying to win, you don't win a fantasy championship because you just get lucky because you pick two good players. You have to build out a team, right?
Hmm.
Literally have to build out a team. Yes, you could have the top quarterback and top wide receiver, and it will put you usually in position if they're both number one options, it's going to put you in that position to be able to win your league week over week. But you still have to surround them with other pieces, right? So with that, before we get out of here, man, I wanted to tell bro, thank you for coming on, joining me, man. It
Thank you
was
for
a
having me. Thank
pleasure.
you for
You
having
know
me.
what I'm saying? Again, you guys, hopefully we're gonna have him back on again. If not, I will be bringing out the episode about the league. All right, and then I'm also gonna have a couple of tidbits um, that you guys should probably add to your fantasy draft. I'm definitely want to just have you guys certain things that I try to do from time to time to just kind of get myself set up for players because I'm not a person that likes to go by everybody's ADP, right? I don't
Mhm.
I don't like that. I think sometimes they are very close, but I think that's only for like a certain top tier players, like from probably 1 to maybe 15 to 20, you're probably gonna be in the area of everybody. After that, it's a crapshoot.
Yep.
Who knows who's gonna jump up. So again, man, I appreciate you guys for taking the time joining us, man. Shout out to my brother Kneel B4 Zod. He's back. He's ready. He's already gonna be primed to line it up. Give me 10 likes, guys. Listen, if you give me 10 likes, he's gonna go live, and you guys gonna get an in-depth feel of what he goes through. doing a fantasy game. It will be, and I'm only gonna do the first week. I only want to do the first week because after that, he's probably not even gonna want to be on camera. He's like, bro, I don't think I want to do this. I'm
Yeah.
too focused in on this. You know what I'm saying? But it's a really good. It's fun. We talk some shit. We have a good time. But it's all over the place. Like it's just it's fantasy football gives me so much anxiety. I tell him every time, I hate this shit, but why do I keep
Dude,
coming back for it? You know what I'm
it's a
saying?
love hate
It's because I
relationship.
it's
It's
because
a
I've
love
been
hate
missing it
relationship.
so long. I almost forget how that shit feels. And then I get in, it's like, yep, this is what I don't like. I'm always the guy that gotta wait till Monday night to know my fate type shit. So hey man, I ain't gonna hold you guys. I've been rambling, man. But listen, I am your boy, Commissioner Mason. This Kneel B4 Zod. This is the Elite 8 Fantasy Football League show. Thank you guys for
Mhm.
joining us. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you when I see you. We out.